Welcome back, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the day. I know it's been full of good information, a lot of great sessions today, and hopefully you were able to squeeze in some networking as well. I know I did. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed the day. I know it's been full of good information, a lot of great sessions today, and hopefully. Okay, I had my background of my full stage on, so that was what was going on there for a second. So pardon me. I'll tell you, I'm really jazzed up about this next session, our keynote, Wray. So I had the fortune to meet her last year at the Women Entrepreneurship Day that was hosted by Launchpad 2X. And that was a very special moment for me because I had just made my exit from corporate and I was like really deliberating over whether or not to spend the money to attend the event. It wasn't much, but when you go from $6 figures to $0, in income, you start making some deliberate decisions. And one thing that a quote that she said that really stood out to me was, our desire to accomplish must exceed our fears. And oh my gosh, I'll tell you, this past year has been one scary year. And in the past month or so, the fear has turned up and amplified so great. I mean, it's been intense. But she was able to share some really great insights with me that day. And I was just blown away by the phenomenal talks that I heard during those sessions. And she actually came up to me afterwards and had very nice, encouraging words to say to me. And I was like, you know what? I'm following her. I need to be having her in my life. So I thank her for that. And when she walked out of Harvard Business School with her MBA focusing on entrepreneurial studies secure in her hand, she knew she had it covered. Well, she had been taught by the best minds in academics and business, and her ferociously absorbed everything they had to share. Over the years, that knowledge helped her to create a series of successful entrepreneurial ventures. She is forever grateful for her stellar education. But I'll tell you, that thing called motherhood, I know very well with 2 daughters of my own. Motherhood was the one thing that has really taught her how to negotiate, how to communicate in the business world, and to think on her feet and adapt to ever-changing circumstances. Raising 3 kids is undoubtedly the best training ground she could have for understanding what it takes to thrive in the entrepreneurial universe. These and those lessons travel directly from the playroom to the boardroom. And with that, I will exit the stage left and invite Wray. Thank you.
Hi. Wow. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you. I am going to get started and even share my screen is my hope so we can have some pictures together. And let's see how this works. Anyway, Siobhan, thank you for those amazing words. And thank you for just being the friend. It was been such a fun journey in this year to connect with you and be a part of today. So welcome, everybody. So excited to be here. And I have one job. And my one job is that we are supposed to have fun. And we're not supposed to have fun. We're supposed to have fun. So welcome again to the chance to be here together. What an amazing day we've been having and just empowering our businesses together. I want to start in my beginning. These are my parents. I love to honor my parents. And we're talking here in the world of Dunwoody and Perimeter. And so there's got to be a Georgia Tech fan in the crowd. My name, as Siobhan has let you know, my name is B. You could call me D, you could call me Bia, you could call me Bra, is what sometimes happens on Siri, but it is B. Wray. And what I have found talking to my phone is that I thought I was in the business of motivational speaking, but come to find out, Siri is in the world of artificial intelligence. And I think she's moving into my territory because she sometimes calls me Be a Ray. She says, good morning, Be a Ray. And I think that she's trying to motivate me to go be a ray of sunshine. So in this cold day, let's go be a ray of sunshine together. And I want to tell you a little bit about my parents. They are Bill and Barb Strickland, and they're here at a Georgia Tech game. And all I can tell you, want B, Bea, D. I'm just happy I wasn't called the Yellow Jacket, because I think that was a clear potential opportunity. Siobhan has already told you more about me than perhaps you ever care to hear. So I don't need to go back on that. But what I will say is so much of my life has been, so she's only telling you the great stuff or the companies. But when I look at my list of things that sort of make up my life, a lot of it is this failure and that opportunity and that learning opportunity. And one thing I often say is that entrepreneurs have 2 master's degrees, one in success and one in failure. So let us all sort of humble ourselves in a place that we realize life isn't always perfect. If 2020 has taught us something, it is that there are challenges, and now is a great time to dust ourselves off, learn something new, and move on. And if you were ever seeking for a great way to go broke, well, I've done 2. One was raising kids on a bridgeless island, and 2, turns out publishing a book is a fabulous thing to do. I've absolutely loved it, but not necessarily the thing that makes a lot of money. So I'm just kind of teasing there, but the idea is life is a lot more than necessarily the end dollar value. But we are here to make a difference, and sometimes we have to make pivots. And so how are we going to be successful in business? As Siobhan started to say, I've had the blessing of an excellent education. But over and over, what I have realized is that business is done with people. So people skills indeed matter. So let's talk about people skills. The other thing I've learned is it turns out that soft skills are actually pretty hard. So we only have a few minutes together, and we're not going to be able to dive really deep in all of the people skills. But what I have found is if I share a little bit about my story, it helps you to reflect on yours, and just some attention to people skills really moves the needle in your business. So today we're going to talk about 3. We're going to really talk briefly about gratitude. We're going to talk about listening, and we're going to talk about building margin. Before we do, I will introduce you to myself and a book that I've recently published. As Siobhan mentioned, it's What an MBA Taught Me, but the tagline is, But My Kids Made Me Learn. I want to share that with you because on the cover, I'm sitting on a jungle gym. And the reason I'm sitting on the jungle gym is sort of a nod to Sheryl Sandberg. When she came out with the book Lean In, what she taught us is that our careers are not linear like ladders, not the corporate ladder we've heard so much about, but think more about our careers and wherever we are in our world experience, and realize that we can stop, learn, listen, and grow in that place. And so our corporate life, our career life is more of a jungle gym. And so what I'm hoping through this talk and through my book is to illustrate that parenting can indeed be a very important place on that corporate jungle gym. I would love to see a show of hands and see if anybody knows what this car is. But I can't do that right now, so I'm just going to have to dive right in. This is a Ford Torino. And I kind of want to tell you a little story about the Ford Torino, because this was made in Atlanta, Georgia, not so far from the airport, back when there was a plant there, which is now where the Porsche offices are. And my dad, with his newly minted Georgia Tech degree, was working in this plant. This was his dream job. It's about when I was born, and my parents had just escaped from Savannah, Georgia. It was sort of Savannah was a BYOJ town, a bring your own job town. So people like my parents who didn't have parents who had an accounting firm or a bank or a place they could slide right into escaped to the big city of Atlanta to start their careers. And my dad landed a job where he could play with cars all day long. He loved it. He didn't mind the long hours. He didn't mind the night shift. He didn't mind having to come home at 2 o'clock in the morning, night after night after night. One of the things he loved was he actually got to drive this super hot car home. Sometimes it was a red one, sometimes it was a black one, sometimes it was a white one. So he's just having a ball in this new life. Now, my mom, on the other hand, is things are just not going well for her. She's 9 months pregnant with me. She's got about a 3-year-old out in the front yard and about almost a 2-year-old, my siblings, and they're just out playing. And my mom is trying to make friends. So she'd sit outside, snapping her beans on the front porch, waving, "Hi, hi, I'm new." The neighbors just walked on by. Then she'd be knitting on the walkway, "Hi," and the neighbors just walked by. Before you knew it, my poor mom is trying to make friends. She's sitting in the cul-de-sac and nobody wanted to talk to her. She can't figure it out. Well, fortunately, here we are many decades later, and she's actually still friends with people in that neighborhood. And it didn't take decades, but it did take weeks. And eventually she went up to some of these people and she said, "What was going on? Why were you ignoring me? I'm new to the neighborhood." And it was our dear friend, Sandy Smith, who kind of pulled her aside and said, "Barbara, this is a family neighborhood. Here you are, 2 young children, a third on the way. And every night you're entertaining a new man, sometimes a red car, sometimes a white car, sometimes a black car." What my parents' neighbors thought at that time was not what it seemed was true, was not at all to be true. Things just aren't what they seem sometimes. So I like to start with that story, give you a little bit of Atlanta history, but also wake up our minds to thinking about what are we assuming is true? What are we not paying attention to as we grow and learn as individuals, as leaders, and as business people? And I want to submit to you that parenting seems irrelevant to business, but indeed, things are not what they seem, and parenting most definitely is related to business. So let's get right down to gratitude. I wish I could tell you every story about so much of gratitude that I just love to talk about. I'll give you one quick lesson that was the most important thing I've ever done as a parent. And that was that I got our children on a habit of one daily thank you note every day. At the end of every day, I was a single mom, 3 kids, working an hour away, and I would often be met at the door with my children saying, "Mom, you're late. What's for dinner? We need to go to soccer practice." I started buying thank you cards by the 300, and I put them out on the kitchen table, and I said, every day, you need to do your homework, you need to do one chore, and by the time I get home, write one thank you note. I don't care to whom, a teacher, an aunt, an uncle, a coach, but meet me with those things done. And amazingly, our attitude shifted. Now, when I was greeted at the door, my kid said, "Hi, Mom, welcome home. I love you." Just the shift in perspective. When we are reminding ourselves to be grateful, the energy changes, our opportunity changes, our vision changes. And I was able to see that in our own life. We started taking this so seriously that we started to address our thank you notes even before we wrote them, because I didn't want ever to miss out on sending the note. So I would go ahead and address them to the typical people. My kids would just grab them and go. Well, we got a little confused at one point, and sometimes envelopes would be sitting around. They'd been sealed because of the humid South, and I thought it was ready to go, and it was blank. One time we sent out a thank you note, a blank thank you note to my poor sweet nephew. He receives it on his birthday. Of course, he eagerly opens it up, thinking it's a birthday card from his cousins. And what ends up happening is he and his mom get in a detailed, lovely, giggle-filled conversation talking about invisible ink and how they love invisible ink and what this birthday message might say. What's the lesson here? Is that even when gratitude is done wrong, it's powerful and wonderful. Gratitude, the best advice anyone can give. Now, let's talk about listening. We can listen better. We can learn to listen longer. And I have all sorts of lessons on this. But today we have time for just a few reminders. This is Beaver Cleaver. Story, a show from the early 50s, is one of my favorites because it reminds me that Beaver was sitting at the kitchen table. He's filling out a form and he says, "Hey, Mom, what's sex?" And June gets all flustered and she starts walking around and, "Well, Beav, I love you. And Beav, your father and I love each other. And Beav, that when sometimes people love each other, and finally, then she's dropped the spoon and she's flustered. And she finally looks at Beav and she says, "Why do you ask?" And he says, "Well, it says right here on my form, sex, M or F." How many times have we done that? Have we jumped to an answer when we've never bothered to hear what we're answering? So I love that little vignette because it reminds me how important listening is. Well, my kids have reminded me in their funny little ways where they'll start to say things and you realize they're processing information very different than I either think I'm delivering it or that I'm processing the information. And one time my son reminded me of this because he asked the question, "Mom, why do we call them cowboys when they ride horses?" Love that. Love the imaginative way that information is being processed. And mostly, I love the question. Another time, I'm hurrying up with the 3 kids. I'm making breakfast and lunch. And my son loved a peanut butter, honey, and banana sandwich. So I'm talking to him and I'm saying, "Oh, I wonder where is the honey?" And at this point, we had a little baby. My husband was upstairs with the baby. And I say, "Robert, where is the honey?" And he says, "Upstairs, putting the baby to bed." Again, listening for what are they really thinking and how are they processing information. My favorite is I was telling a story about Easter and telling the Easter story. And this was, of course, in the spring. And one time, the story goes that Jesus went to pray in the Olive Garden. And a child says, "Really? I had no idea that restaurant was so old." I don't know what you're hearing today, but I really hope that you're listening better, listening longer, and enjoying the ride for sure. I do spend a lot of times working through the nitty-gritty of listening. And we don't have time to dive into that today, but what I will share with you is that in a sales meeting, for example, if we can approach it and say, I want the other person to speak 65% of the time, and I want myself to speak really 35% of the time, we remember that it's not tit for tat, that our job is to throw out a question, to keep the other person talking. And one of the most important things I've learned talking to 300 executives starting companies is that most of the meat in important conversations doesn't happen until about 50 minutes in. And if we've done a good job keeping that other person talking, letting them share their pain points, letting them share where their dreams and their hopes of where our relationship can go, we can get to that 50-minute mark and really hear the 3 to 5 minutes that's going to make a difference in our lives. So let's move on to margin. And margin is all about creating time and space in our lives so that we can have those special moments, so that we can develop those people skills. And I want to give you a special little nugget today. Raise your hand if you sit there saying, there's just too much time in the day. Who says that? Nobody ever. And certainly not an entrepreneur or business owner, right? What I found is most business owners start to we all think of our time as a pie chart. Draw a little circle, that's your time. Divide your time out. What are you spending where? Unfortunately, then we start asking ourselves, how do we build our pie? Well, the answer is you can't. And I would like to encourage us to get off of what I call this roulette wheel, When we think about our time as this pie chart, it feels like we're just spinning and spinning and spinning. And wherever that marble lands, that's where we're spending our energy. Maybe the same amount of time in your roulette wheel, I'm going to encourage you to move over into a bullseye. And if we can take the same 10 or 15 tasks, but start to organize them as concentric circles where we ask ourselves what's most important. If I get this one thing, most important thing done here and now, then I can move out. Then I can move out. And I promise you that there will be so much more peace and energy, and it will build margin, creativity, and innovation into your day. Another little trick, which I'm assuming you've already seen, but perhaps can be reminded of, is that so many of us spend too much time in what is urgent, but is not important. This is quadrant number 3. Most of us business owners know to stay away from quadrant number 4, something that's not important and not urgent. But what we forget to do is invest our time in those things that are investments for the future, even if they don't have to be done this second. And an example of that is building relationships, training people, delegating well. When we can do those things and stop being interrupted, stop getting down a rabbit hole in social media, stop dealing with someone else's crisis. When we can build strong teams and strong relationships in quadrant number 2, we can often make quadrant number 1, the quadrant of crisis, smaller and less demanding because we've done a great job building quadrant number 2. So what I want to leave you with today is back to a story again about Georgia Tech, because I attended Emory University, the only school I applied to for the sole reason of making friends with this alma mater of my father's that I'd heard about for years and years and years, and I'm so impressed with. So I'm not the engineering science type, so I didn't have any confidence that I could attend Georgia Tech, but I did love going to Emory, and I had the privilege of playing tennis there. And once a year, we had the chance to get our butts beat by Georgia Tech, and we lost 9-0 every year, even though Emory has an incredible tennis program. There I was on the court, thrilled to be a part of this day, and we've already lost the match. There's 9 matches. Our team's already lost 5 of them. I'm on the court. I'm playing doubles. We're lost the first set 6-0. We've probably we're about down 3-0 or so in the second set, and the ball gets beamed right at me. I fall down. I start standing up. I say, don't worry. I'm okay. It didn't hit me. And I'll never forget it. My opponent looks at me, points right at me, and she says, I don't care if you're okay, but if it hits you, it's my point. I don't know what you would have said in that situation, but I said the only thing that came to my mind that was so true. And I said, does this mean we're not going to be best friends? Well, turns out we didn't end up being best friends, but I would love to get to hear from you. I would love to connect with you. I would love to hear about your business and hear about people skills. And hopefully, maybe some of my words or some of the words in my book are encouraging to you and uplifting to you. And I just would love to hear more about your story.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Bea. That was very, very exciting. I really enjoyed that thoroughly.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you said some fun, so I'm here to have some fun.
Absolutely. The one with the different cars, that one, I just can't get over it. Things really are not what they seem.
Not at all.
All right. Well, everyone, please check out the expo. You'll find a booth with more information about how you can connect with Bea, and you can purchase her book. Thank you so much to all of our presenters. Thank you so much, Bea, for being here. I really, really appreciate you taking the time today. I'd like to thank our other presenters as well, Dr. Chaudhry, Michael Starling, Nancy Palmer, Bill Baker, Raquel Vineyard, B. Wray, Annette Jackson, Rick Wade, Kyle Glade, Steve Newton, Johan Weber. And we would like to also thank Discover Dunwoody for their support with this event. And without our patron sponsors, events such as these would not be possible. So I'd like to give a special thanks to A.G. Fisher Barrett, Cox Enterprises, CRH, Emory St. Joseph's Hospital, Fathers Incorporated, Northside Hospital, Perimeter Community Improvement Districts, Perimeter Mall, State Farm, Synovus, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. In addition to these great organizations, I look forward to working with our board, staff, members, and community throughout the coming year. I hope you will join us for future events and engage in initiatives that will help your business to recover, rebound, and thrive into 2021 and beyond. Please visit our website at perimeterchamber.com for more information. And with that, I'll close off the event. Thank you so much for joining us today.